Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to WEEE Flows, an enhanced definition of extended producer responsibility and the role of all actors. At today's webinar, we will show you that after nearly 2 decades since the adoption of EU legislation on WEEE and the concerted effort of producer responsibility organizations, producers, and many other actors, and despite the continuous growth of the tonnages of WEEE that are collected, most member states have not reached the 2019 WEEE collection targets. We will discuss the causes of that distance to target and what we can do about it. We've got 6 distinguished professionals lined up today. Thomas Lindqvist, the Swedish professor credited with introducing the concept of extended producer responsibility, as well as Mattia Pellegrini of the European Commission's DG Environment, Kees Balde of the United Nations, Jan Vlak, President of the WEEE Forum, Nathalie Isère of Ecosystem, and Wamda Said El Serojji representing Digital Europe. My name is Pascal Leroy and I will be your moderator today. This session will be recorded. The recording will be available on the website. All attendees will be muted. If you have a comment or question, please write it down in the questions box. The speakers and panelists will do their utmost to respond to some of the questions posted. The webinar is not expected to last more than 100 minutes. The webinar will close at 15:40. Both the UNITAR report and the WEEE Forum's vision on EPR will be uploaded on the website and will be made available in the chat box towards the end of the webinar. Follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn for updates and check the websites. Before I hand over to the first speaker, let me briefly present who we are. The WEEE Forum is a Brussels-based international not-for-profit association speaking for 41 not-for-profit producer responsibility organizations with WEEE management operations on 5 continents: the Americas, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. The latest PRO, who will join us as a member in 2021, has operations in Colombia. The PROs in the WEEE Forum are representative of and mandated by the sector of electrical and electronic equipment. 2/3 of PROs in the WEEE Forum are market leaders. Last year, the PROs in the WEEE Forum collected 2,500,000 tons of e-waste, the equivalent of 250 Eiffel Towers. Our mission is to be the world's foremost e-waste competence center, excelling in the implementation of the circularity principle. I now give the floor to Mattia Pellegrini, who will present to us the Commission's guidelines on the general minimum requirements for EPR systems, and who will share some facts and figures about the e-waste trends in Europe and globally. Mattia is head of unit in DG Environment and previously head of unit in DG Grow. The floor is yours, Mattia, and I will handle your slides.
Okay, I was just trying again to speak. So first of all, thank you very much. I would be very kind if your colleagues can share my PowerPoint presentation. Let me also congratulate the WEEE Forum for organizing this meeting. With you, Pascal, we had the opportunity already to work in the past when I was head of unit for raw materials in the DG Grow. So I'm looking forward now to collaborate in my new function. I also would like to explain to all of you that I mean my unit is dealing with several different pieces of legislation, as you're aware, and probably the WEEE Directive is the one that I still need some time to get more familiar with. So indeed, I will try to get questions, but I will also ask my colleagues, in case not able to reply to your questions, to support me, notably Bettina and Maria, to support me with the replies to the questions. Let me start with the first slides. So if it can be projected indeed. So I think we should also start why it is important to include electronic waste into the concept of circular economy, why the WEEE directive is important, and why it is important, as Pascal said, that member states, they comply with the targets, because indeed, also based on our assessment, member states are still far from complying with our targets. It is important because indeed, there are a lot of chemical and heavy metals which needs to be dealt properly as waste, but also they are important from an economic point of view. This I know pretty well from my previous job. There is plenty of critical raw materials which are contained more in which are contained in very high percentages in electrical waste. Let me just mention, I don't know, lithium in the batteries, or cobalt, or even, as we mentioned here in the slides, for example, gold. And also because it makes sense from an economic point of view, because indeed you find, we always give this example of gold, that we find more gold in a ton of mobile phone than in a ton of extracted ore from a mining activity. So that's indeed is also the reason why, from a circular economy point of view, it's extremely important to make sure that we recycle our electronics. And also because we need to prevent that they end up in landfill. Now, if we move to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So with that slide, what we wanted to just share with you is that no matter where we look into millions of tons or kilograms per capita, so the light blue is kilograms per capita, and the dark blue is millions of tons, you can see that there is an exponential increase of the WEEE that is generated in the European Union. So indeed, not only it is a stream, waste stream, which is important due to the materials which are contained, but it's also important because it's one of the fast-growing waste streams in the world, and also in the European Union, where the amount of WEEE which was generated in 2020 has reached the level of 12 million tons, as you can see. So that is an additional reason why we really have to make sure that the WEEE directive is going to work. Next slide. Okay, with that slide, indeed, we want to show that indeed, although there is an extreme increase of waste stream as WEEE, then in terms of recycling, we are not yet there. I mean, when we look at collection and recycling rates, targets, as you can see, these are the small circles. We have Africa, America, Europe, and Oceania, and Asia. Indeed, as you can see, Europe, it is leading, but still, we still have a lot of potential in terms of increasing that target. As you know, the new target is about 65%, and indeed, we estimate that many member states will not be able to reach that target. Also, why it is important that we tackle more or better that problem in terms of collection and recycling, because we know that there is a lot of WEEE which is illegally exported as a second-hand product. There are different estimates, it's between 70 and 20%, so it's quite a big problem, and which needs to be tackled. And also, there is also a number of, a certain percentage of WEEE which is not collected properly, which goes in the residual bin, so it is actually mixed into other waste, and that should not happen. So that's I think there are also, that slide is to show you that indeed we need to do more, and especially the recycling and collection is not taking the same, is not coping with the speed of how this waste stream is increasing step by step. Next slide. Here we try to see what how the WEEE collection has been changing in the EU over time in terms of millions of tons. And indeed, as I said, there is still progress to be made, but you can see that there has been clearly from 2005 a massive increase in the millions of tons which are collected. But of course, now we are talking about the target for 2020. Indeed, we are not yet there. Next slide. Yeah, so indeed, as you know now, the new target was supposed to be achieved by the end of 2019. We will only get reports next year, so we don't have the official data at the moment. As you know, there was a novelty in the new WEEE directive that you can measure the WEEE targets in two ways, either 85% as a target of the WEEE which has been generated, or 65% of the electrical waste which has been placed into the market over the previous 3 years. As you can see from there, what you have in the graphic, you have in blue, the line in blue is the target of 65%, and the target in red is the current target of 45%. As you can see, only few member states will achieve the target of 65%. So there, indeed, there is, at least based on the information we have received so far. So that's, I think, is indeed, as Pascal was mentioning, there is a need of additional effort. So if we move to the next slide, indeed, we have been discussing already with member states what are the actions that can be taken. As you know, my colleagues in 2017 and 2018 have carried out WEEE compliance promotion initiatives. So these are discussions with member states. And we plan, of course, now it's difficult to do this WEEE compliance promotion initiative because they require visit to member states. And that's not possible now with the current COVID situation, but we plan to reactivate that WEEE compliance promotion initiative as soon as possible when from when it will be possible after this current pandemic period. Also, what is important is that the peer-to-peer instrument, which is an instrument which facilitates dialogue among member states. So it's an instrument to share best practices among member states. It is now active again. This is the website we are providing to you. So indeed, PROs like you and member states authorities, you can actually start to apply again to that, to organize peer-to-peer events. Of course, also we plan to reactivate the workshops in member states again when it will be possible. And as you know, as part of the Circular Economy Action Plan, also we have now launching a study, or actually has just been launched, a study to look into the issue of WEEE collection for essentially mobile phones. So this is the under the Circular Electronics Initiative. So for that, so now we are going to carry out that study because the political level has asked us to look into that and to see what type of actions can be taken, in particular for mobile phone and other small WEEE devices. Next slide. Yeah. Indeed, as you know, we have done a study in order to prepare the guidance by the Commission on extended producer responsibility. And in particular, in this study, we have looked into issues such as the eco-modulation of fees, so to have a better eco-modulation of fees, what are the necessary costs, but also the issue, which I know that is becoming more and more relevant, of free riding of online platforms. So how to solve this problem that not all the operators are paying the EPR fees in the market. So that there is a free riding issued by companies which they place their products only on online platform. So next slide. Yeah, sorry, let's go back because I think I just wanted to make on the EPR fee, on the EPR, I just wanted to let you know that we are in the process of finalizing the guidelines by the European Commission. We are also in touch with our colleagues in DG Connect to see if the issue of EPR, of free riding by online platform can be tackled in another piece of legislation, which is the E-Commerce Directive. So that's we are going to see that. You may be aware that in the E-Commerce Directive, unfortunately, at the moment, the way it's written at the moment, we cannot place an obligation on platforms to check compliance with the regulation. So in order to use the E-Commerce Directive, we will need to change the E-Commerce Directive and to make a platform to add this obligation on platforms that they have to check compliance with our own EPR system. I also, maybe, I don't know if you are aware, you could be aware that we have been in touch with the Italian authorities because we understand that the Italian authorities are doing a pilot with Amazon on a system which Amazon has developed. It is a system which okay, yeah, I had one problem with the audio, but now it seems to be back. So just to let you know that what we understand from that system is that it will be Amazon that will take care of the EPR fees. And but we do believe that that system, I mean, we need to understand better how the system that will work, but it may create problems from 2 points of view. One is because if Amazon pays a flat fee, this is not in line with the polluters pay principle, where you need to have an eco-modulation of the fees, but also because indeed normally it should not be the platform who pays the fees, as you know, it should be the producers. So the platform is only an intermediary. Of course, for a large platform like Amazon, it's not a problem to pay, or at least it's not a major problem. But indeed, we need to understand better. We were with my colleagues, we had a recent call with our Italian colleagues. Due to the COVID situation, also understand that they're really at the beginning of the process, so they couldn't provide us any data on that scheme. But indeed, we were also monitoring that to see how the system is going to work. So that is what I can tell you now. And indeed, as I said, I will be really happy to listen to you, to also learn from the reports which are going to be presented. And indeed, if there are questions, we will either myself or Bettina Lorz and Maria Panti will help me to reply to the questions.
Thank you very much, Mattia, for your very insightful presentation, especially your comments about guidelines for EPR schemes. The WEEE Forum, in association with producer associations, are dealing with this, and in the coming months we will issue our own views and practical suggestions as to how to make this work. So thank you very much for your feedback on this point, Mattia. Last year, it became clear that member states would not attain the WEEE collection targets. What exactly has been going on? Why were they not attained? And how big is the distance to target? In other words, how significant is the gap? The WEEE Forum commissioned the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, a UN body with whom we collaborate in a number of EU and international projects, to research this matter. Gilles Baldet has been a senior program officer for almost 12 years, mostly working on WEEE statistics. He is a statistician by training and has worked for Centraal Bureau voor de Statistiek in the Netherlands. Gilles, you have the floor.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Thank you, Pascal. and also for this kind introduction. And I'm very happy to present to you the highlights of our research on the review of the WEEE collection rates and targets in the European Union, which still includes the United Kingdom, Norway, Switzerland, and Iceland. In this presentation, I will provide you the data on how much we are collecting in the European Union, and which factors have a positive impact on the WEEE collection and which factors have a negative impact on the WEEE collection, and whether it is sufficient to meet the collection targets. I think my previous speakers have given some spoilers already here. And also I will end up with the impact on behavior based on our study and what's needed for the future in order to reach the targets laid down in the WEEE Directive. So let me start with the facts. Currently, in 2018, around 55% of the WEEE is collected and reported to the WEEE Directive compared to the WEEE generated. And most of this WEEE has been collected by producer responsibility organizations, and only a small fraction of this WEEE has been reported using the option of the substantiated estimates. In our report, we also wanted to understand more, like, what is behind those numbers, and in particular, we have looked at the different ways how member states have implemented the WEEE Directive, and I will present you, like right now, which factors have a positive impact on the WEEE collection rates. Well, and we have found in our study that if a member state has an all-access approach in their country, which is a policy model in which all persons which have legal responsibilities in WEEE management have to abide to the WEEE Directive and work together towards a common goal. Yes.
Sorry, Keith, we don't see your slides.
You don't see my slides, not anymore, or?
No, I haven't seen them since the start, and I thought it was just my.
Okay, that's interesting. I am well. Let me switch off my. Well, do you see my camera, or maybe? Yes. Okay, the camera is there, but maybe not. And do you see my? I will stop to show my screen, and
we see a cursor, by the way.
The cursor. That's already something. Shall I end show and then go back to this, and then maybe start again?
Now we see your screen. Yeah.
Okay. Now I will start it again. Is it better like this?
No, it's blank again.
Oh, how come? Oh, hang on, that's the wrong one.
That's it.
Yeah, and then Microsoft PowerPoint. Let me the presenter view. And is it better like this, or that's the wrong one? Sorry for this inconvenience.
Yeah, that's the way.
We've tested it and it all worked fine, and then you will see if you go live on stage. There are always these technical hiccups. However, I'm still very happy that this is still possible in these COVID times. So I was telling you about the positive impact of the all-access approach. Well, the all-access approach is a policy model in which all persons which have a legal responsibility in WEEE management abide the WEEE Directive and work together towards a common goal of responsible WEEE operations and transparent monitoring. And if a member state has implemented this, we see a positive impact on the WEEE collection compared to member states that have not implemented this all-access approach. That's our first finding. And our second finding is that also the mandatory handover of WEEE, which is a legal instrument where retailers or waste collectors must hand over WEEE to compliance schemes or formal or compliant recyclers, also have a positive impact on WEEE collection. So in recap, we have seen in our study that there is a positive effect of the all-access approach and mandatory handover, and 55% of the WEEE is reported to be collected. We've also looked at the reasons why member states are not reaching the collection targets. And there are actually four, let's say five reasons for this. The first reason is the fact that significant amounts of e-waste are exported for reuse. And this e-waste is not being documented to be for the WEEE Directive, and is leaving also the territory of the European Union. So it is not becoming waste in some cases in the European Union. A second reason is that people are still badly educated and dispose of e-waste in the waste bin, where it will be incinerated or landfilled eventually. It's a waste of resources, as you can imagine. A third reason is that e-waste is ending up in metal scrap. In this case, it is mixed with metal scrap. It is recycled, though, however, not under the same conditions as a producer responsibility scheme would do this. So, and it's also not reported to the WEEE Directive. And finally, well, the worst what can happen is that e-waste is illegally exported outside of the European Union, where it will be most likely dumped in poorer countries where there is no e-waste management infrastructure in place at all. All of those four flows represent approximately 20% of all the WEEE. So we have seen a positive effect of the all actors approach. 55% of the WEEE is reported to be collected, and 20% of the WEEE is in the other flows. What's happening with the final quarter? This final quarter is mostly unmapped. So 13% of this WEEE is unmapped. So member states have not done studies. Also researchers have not done studies which could tell us where this e-waste is ending up. And we know it is there. Well, the other part, 12% of this WEEE is unmapped, or it could be related to the uncertainty of the WEEE generated calculation. And also here, member states and researchers should also put more time to make this calculation more accurate, so we can reduce this uncertainty. So in total, 25% of the whereabouts of the e-waste is unknown. Well, a recap, we have seen a positive effect of the all actors approach and the mandatory handover. 55% of the WEEE is reported to be collected, 20% is in other WEEE flows, and 25% is unknown. Well, I think my previous people have given the spoiler. Is it sufficient to meet the targets? Well, let me start first with what counts for the targets for WEEE collection. It's the total of the WEEE collection and the substantiated estimates that you can see on my screen. And there are two types of targets. The first target is the put on the market target, where member states have to collect 65% of the weight what they have been placing on the market in the 3 preceding years. And as you can see, the distance to target is quite significant. And if we further zoom in to the performance of the member states, we can see that the majority of the member states are not reaching the collection targets with the current figures. And this collection target, it will be in force from 2019 onwards, but it's also very likely that most countries who don't have the 2019 data yet will not reach the target because the gap is simply too big. As expressed earlier, there is another target, which is the WEEE generated target. And this target says that the member states have to collect 85% of the WEEE generated, and the member states have the option to choose which target they want. It's not either or both. No, it is either one, and they can also change between years, whatever is more relevant for their system. Currently, this WEEE generated target is substantially higher than the put on the market target. So it might not surprise you that the distance to the target is even larger for the WEEE generated target. So we have seen a positive effect of the all actors approach and a mandatory handover. 55% of the WEEE is reported to be collected, and 20% is in other WEEE flows, and 25% is unknown, and we are not reaching the collection targets. Some final words about behavior. If we look at the development over time of the WEEE generated target, we see that it is gradually increasing over time. In contrast to the put on the market target, this is a lot more volatile, as you can see on the screen. And this volatility is driven by two factors. First of all, and I think we all can understand, it's because of the fluctuations of the put on the market. And this is caused by two factors. Photovoltaic panels, which have been massively placed on the market about a decade ago, and now they're also massively being placed on the market in some member states in the European Union, causing a lot of the volatility. And another reason is other economic fluctuations. Of course, if the economy is growing, people consume more electronic equipment, which is also hiring the target. And in fact, we have also looked at the impact it has on WEEE collection, and we have seen if the put on the market increases with 1 kilogram per inhabitant, excluding photovoltaic panels, by the way, we see an increase of 0.5 kilogram per inhabitant for WEEE collection, and vice versa. If the put on the market goes down with 1 kilogram per inhabitant, we see for that member state also a decrease of 0.5 kilogram per inhabitant in WEEE collection. Another final thing, what I want to tell to you about behavior is about hoarding. I know that this is discussed a lot, and it is a hot topic. And our research has shown that hoarding is significant. On average, 4 to 5 kilograms of e-waste is per a person is hoarded in our households. So this is significant. However, if we zoom more into the data, we have seen that the influx and the outflux of the equipment which is hoarded, so how much is entering while the hoarding phase and is leaving, is about the same. So the net effect of hoarding on WEEE collection is therefore 0, so has on average less impact on the collection rates. So my final takeaway messages: we have seen a positive impact of the all actors approach and mandatory handover, and we collect 55% of all the WEEE and report that to the WEEE directive. However, this is not sufficient to reach the collection targets. Around 20% of the WEEE is found in other WEEE flows, and there are two solutions out there in order to reach the put on the market targets. First of all, I think we have to start to monitor the used exports a lot better. And we also have to make sure that these are not disguised e-waste exports for e-waste dumping. But we really have to be sure that this is tested and has a long lifetime in the recipient country. And then you can subtract those used exports, for instance, from the put on the market, and to adjust your target with that. And the second solution is, of course, to divert the unwanted flows. We have to stop the dumping of e-waste in other countries. We have to divert e-waste from the metal scrap, and we have to improve the behavior of consumers, that they are not disposing of e-waste in the waste bin. And then we can reach the put on the market target. However, do we generated target is even further away. And for that, we have to understand much better what's happening with our e-waste, because a quarter of the e-waste is unknown. So countries have to improve their monitoring system and to understand better where their e-waste is ending up, even though it is. And they would also have to improve and help us to make the generated calculations better. I think that I've also shown you that behavior can impact the target calculations. And for instance, you could consider to have separate targets based on the WEEE generated for products which are placed on the market and are not leading to WEEE generations such as photovoltaic panels. And another solution, it could also be to make some corrections on the target settings if this is needed for economic reasons, so that we have less which is available what to be collected. And we have and I have shown also one potential methodology in our report how this could be done to adjust the WEEE generated target. Thank you. Pascal, over to you.
Okay, thank you for unmuting me. Thank you very much, Kees, for your very insightful presentation. I think it's very important that we all know what the WEEE Flows is composed of, the percentages, and also the key message that we need to research, that the member states need to monitor what's going on in the market. I think that message is absolutely very critical. We now turn to Jan Vlak, President of the WEEE Forum. Jan has been General Manager of WeCycle, the PRO in the Netherlands, for 12 years. Jan's motto has always been, you won't manage what you don't measure. Years before the WEEE Forum started to research WEEE Flows in Europe, Jan led groundbreaking research into the WEEE Flows in the Netherlands. Jan, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You hear me or not?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, great. I will set my presentation in presentation mode. One moment. Yes, there it is. And there is now, okay. Thank you, Pascal, for your introduction, and also a big thank you to Kees Baldet and Mattia Pellegrini for the presentations, and of course for sharing their insights. I share my webcam on my screen, so now you also see me. Good afternoon, everybody. In the next 15 minutes, I will introduce to you what we, as the WEEE Forum, believes are the fundamentals for the EPR, a new EPR policy approach, an enhanced definition of EPR and the role of all. And the issue is that most member states struggle to meet the 29 WEEE collection targets. Huge progress has been made since the adoption of the WEEE legislation in 2002. For example, 48 million tons of WEEE has been reported as collected between 2005 and 2018, so in between 15 years. To make this amount more visual, it's the equivalent of 4,800 hours. And the 20 global e-waste monitor says that Europe is the continent with the highest documented form of e-waste collection and recycling rate. Collection went up from 7.3 kilos per inhabitant in 2019 to 9.5 kilos in 2018. The producers and the PROs in the WEEE Forum have played a critical role in making the economy more resource efficient and more sustainable. Many member states attained the 45% collection target, yet most will not attain the 65%. Kees Baudet just has shown in his presentation that there is a significant distance to target in Europe. This graph shows the collection rate in a percentage of tonnage of products placed on the market in the 3 preceding years. As you can see, 8 member states did not attain the 45 collection target. That means also that most member states in the European Union did attain the former 45% collection target. The trouble is, they will, however, not attain the 65% target. The vast majority of countries lies between 45 and 65%, as you can see on the slide. And 3 countries reported a higher collection than 65%, but we are not confident about the statistics provided by 2 countries in the Balkans, as they were not part of the WEEE study. They also shows just a few months ago that 50% of the WEEE is documented and reported as collected. 20% ends up in other flows and need to be diverted, and 25% is unknown, which means that countries need to improve monitoring. And therefore, there's a significant distance to target, as calculated by both the place on the market and by the WEEE-generated methodology. So the time is ripe for an update of the WEEE policy approach based on an enhanced definition of the EPR principle. At least that is the convinced of the members of the WEEE Forum. And the solution is what we think a new approach based on 4 principles. And I hear a comment that my sound is not quite well, so I will improve a little bit. Yes. The solution is that we need a policy approach based on new fundamentals. And actually, we identified 4 of such fundamentals. The first one is to implement the all approach, also known as the AAA approach. The second is revise EPR principles by using the WEEE available for collection. The third one is to promote and implement measures supporting the all approach. And finally, revise the target calculation methodology. So let's zoom in each one of them.
Jan, your sound is breaking up, unfortunately, and it is
Okay.
persistent. It is persistent. So, have you got a microphone within reach?
One moment, Pascal. Is this improving now or not?
Yes, please continue.
Does my sound better?
No, you're still breaking up.
Pascal, do you hear me?
Yes, but I hear you, but you are breaking up from time to time.
I cannot hear you, Pascal. I'm sorry.
Maybe turn off your camera, Jan.
Okay, Pascal, again. Is my sound a little bit improved now or not?
Now it's improved a lot, yes.
All right.
Then I will go back to my previous slide, because that's more or less the summary of my presentation. What I was telling is that we need a new policy approach based on 4 fundamentals. And the first one is to implement the all actors approach. The second one is to revise EPR principles using the WEEE available for collection approach. 3 is to promote and implement measures supporting the all actors approach. And finally, revise the target calculation methodology. That is what we think are the 4 fundamentals for a new approach. So I will zoom in on each of them. And first, it's the all actors approach, or AAA. This is a policy model whereby all entities, both public but also private, that have access to WEEE and therefore are involved in the collection, logistics, preparation for reuse, the refurbishment, the treatment, or the recycling, or are involved in monitoring and enforcement activities, are subject to minimum legal obligations regarding compliancy, reporting to authority, meeting official standards, and of course, communication. Authorities must enforce these legal obligations to ensure that all actors contribute in line with their requirements. And this policy model relies not only on strong enforcement, but also on coordination. That means that a coordination body or a coordination council is needed. So in this approach, a coordination body or council is established and should be composed of representatives of all actors that may influence collection rates. PROs must play a critical role in the governance of the coordination body, for example, to ensure that activities and initiatives are cost-effective, proportionate, and fair. And it's proposed that the coordination body coordinates and monitors, of course, the allocation of collection responsibilities, monitors compliance of collection, and also the responsibility and collection in general, sets reporting framework and coordinates the reporting from all actors, design strategies for expanding and improving the collection network, funds research and development and studies on, for example, the WEEE Flows, coordinates communication campaigns, and the body, the council, is involved in enforcement planning and supporting enforcement. PROs are required to collect the WEEE to which they have access. This is WEEE deposited at collection facilities or handed over to the producers. PROs commit to collect 100% of the WEEE that is available to them, to which they have access. And the principle that all actors that can influence collection rates based on their actual competences and their access to WEEE must have obligations in legislation. EPR, as it's stated on the sheet, EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility and not for Exclusive Producer Responsibility. The Advanced Epr Concept looks like a temple with 3 pillars. And the first pillar is that all actors that have access to WEEE or can influence collection rates contribute to reaching the target, which remains, of course, a member state responsibility. The second pillar, all actors have minimum legal obligations such as register, report, finance, collect, and inform. And finally, PROs and producers should be expected to provide the means to get WEEE to move from unreported to reported flows. The third fundamental of the new EPR policy approach are the measures supporting the all actors approach, the AAA. And we have identified 10 of such measures, as you can see on this slide, and I will list them up. First, of course, establish a coordination body, I've just told you. The second is improve the existing collection network. The third is extend the role of retail and logistics in collection. For count, we collect it with scrap and ensure proper treatment. Fifth, create awareness. 6, involve customs. 7, set specific targets for PV panels and professional equipment, just as Kees Baudet pointed out in his presentation. 8, promote circular economy and waste prevention. 9, targeted law enforcement. And the 10th is monitor flows. And with my experience in the Netherlands of the WEEE Flows study we conducted, and we have conducted them twice, I believe this is a critical one. You cannot mitigate or manage what you have not measured or what you don't know. The fourth fundamental, an all actors approach and supporting measures will certainly increase collection rates, but are not a guarantee for reaching the targets. The current collection targets are not fit for purpose. They are inadequate and they defeat their purpose. The target is not working in driving up collection rates. There is no evidence that increasing a target increases also the collection. And furthermore, the high collection targets under the placed on the market approach conflict with the waste policy that promotes waste prevention and the extension of life of appliances. As we heard from Kees Baudet, the main shortcomings of the WEEE generated target methodology are the fluctuations in tonnages for collection due to economic cycles, inaccuracies of data placed on the market, and of lifespan. And ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to my last sheet, and this sheet gives an overview of what we within the WEEE Forum believe are the 4 fundamentals for a new EPR policy approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan, for this inspirational presentation. I think these 4 pillars is exactly the 4 elements that we want to convey as WEEE Forum in response to the research that the United Nations has conducted. I was wondering if any of the panelists had any critical question for Jan in response to his presentation. If not, I suggest we do a short comfort break, 5 minutes, and we reconvene at 14:58. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the webinar. We are now going to an interactive panel discussion with 3 experts. We have lined up for you Thomas Lindqvist from Lund University, Nathalie Isère from Ecosystem, which is a producer responsibility organization in France, and Wamda Said El Siroji, representing Digital Europe, but working for Canon. To Thomas Lindqvist, I have the following question, Thomas. You are widely considered to be the father of the extended producer responsibility principle. The WEEE Forum is saying that the definition of EPR needs to be enhanced along 4 distinct lines: the all actors approach, WEEE available for collection, supporting measures, and new methodology for calculation of targets. Do you agree with our call to redesign the EPR principle? Have you got other suggestions to enhance EPR?
Okay. I hope you can hear me now.
Now we can hear.
Muted and unmuted several times here. I must say I spent a number of interesting hours reading the reports, and I must congratulate. I think it has been a very good work and a very topical in the right moment to do it. So I'm very pleased with having got this opportunity. You asked me especially about the definition, and I always think that it's possible to redefine and etc. The question is, do we really need to do it? Because the way I have been reading the definition, at least when I'm writing the definition, I don't really see a very big need for this. I think it's very much in line with the thoughts behind and with a principle. But definitely, I mean, when it comes to the implementation, we need to do a lot of the things which have been pointed out. And I would agree with very many, almost everything which has been said. I think that one of the things we need to think about is the question about we made available for collection and how to implement that in practice. Because we need active actors. We need basically the producers to be alert to this and to put pressure to use their organizations, the PROs, so that we move forward. And we need to see that this incentive is still there. And I need to see a more final version. I need to think a bit around to see how that can best be done. So incentive for improvement. Then I can't help also saying that we need to have some parallel action going on, because we need to collect, yes, and we need to get things in the right place, and we need to report in a fair and useful way. But we also may need to make good use of what we are collecting. And I think it's a really great and important area to work on. And it is the question about how to have a better reuse and repair strategy and how to get that into the system. And it's a question about using the right type of incentives, legislative or whatever, so that we get more out of the materials which we are recycling. We need to enhance the quality, and we need to see that the incentives are still there for this. But going back to my own experience, I would say that what I need to see is how do we guarantee convenience for the citizens? Where in the system do we put in this? We have been struggling with that, and in my view, in my country, we are still struggling with making it convenient. So I would like to see a little bit clearer on how we will guarantee this. But I definitely congratulate to the work. It's very important, and I hope that all the relevant authorities in Brussels and in the member countries have the ability to make use of this. So,
thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas. I recall two things from what you just said, and the first one is, how do we get repair into the system again? And I think that could be a good question for Wanda, because you represent Digital Europe. So what is Digital Europe's position vis-a-vis repair of products? Do you agree with Thomas that this is absolutely a key question in the mix?
Hi, good afternoon. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm getting a nod, so I'm assuming that's a yes. So yeah, a really good afternoon to everyone. And yes, I definitely do agree. And Digital Europe members, when it comes to repair and providing consumers with information, they've actually been leading the way, and some of them had some ground commitment. So there's been a recent paper back in July by Digital Europe that actually looked at the vision for sustainable consumers and consumer information to support repair and product lifetimes. So definitely they started the work. There's many examples there, and also in the paper actually also looked into how can we protect the consumer by defining the right of repair, so we can have access to the high quality, safe and secure repair option. And also various members of Digital Europe members, they do have repairs and where you can send product backs to be repaired. So some of them been leading the way for quite a while when it comes to the remanufacturing and re-refurbishment of products. So yes, I definitely agree.
Oh, thank you, Wanda. And the other point that Thomas mentioned, and now I turn to Nathalie for some insights, is how can we make it more convenient for consumers to return unwanted or broken electricals? What can you just explain to us what the PRO can do to make it more convenient for consumers, Nathalie?
Thank you, Pascal. But I will just give some insight regarding what I've said before, because I think PROs keep on being very proactive in their role, and they stay the main supporters of actions that will increase collection, increase preparation for reuse, help to develop repair and guarantee a proper treatment meeting the official standards. But I think it's important that we understand we will maybe collectively fail unless there is a change in the regulatory and enforcement approach, because only we that can be proved to have followed proper treatment should count towards attaining the collection target we have been talking about. And this is important because we know that our we are different from other types of waste. We've seen they're subject to predation because they have an economic value as secondhand, because they have valuable materials they contain, and also on the other hand, they contain substances, some are toxic for health and the environment, and some are notorious for bioaccumulation. And we know that proper decontamination is costly, but it's not an option to improve the quality of materials and to improve the way we can support and develop circular economy. And this is very important to us, because the UNITAR report shows that approximately, we've seen the figures, 20 to 25% of the WEEE vanish to unknown destinations, which are more likely illegal. And it is estimated that an additional 50% are either thrown or mixed without depollution, with other metal waste, and sold as scrap iron, which is inappropriate and difficult to track for us. And what I want to share with you is that, and Thomas mentioned it, and it's, let's say, on the table for the authorities, but I want to point out, that national competent authorities have a key role in the all actors approach, because from my opinion, they can fairly distribute compliance requirements and legal responsibilities among actors involved in the WEEE management. And we have been quoted mandatory handover, treatment standards, for example. And they can also make sure that all actors collaborate in good faith and work towards the common goal of responsible, and this is important, WEEE operations. They can also control operations in the field and implement sanctions. And I want to share some good news with you today, because after years of efforts and cooperation with the public authorities to combat illegal WEEE appropriation in France, the French government has just decided, it was on Sunday, to create an ecocide law, and means for pollution offense and environment offense, which is very important. And this is very good news for us at Ecosystem, because it will significantly boost our operations. And we know that a substantial portion of WEEE is still, unfortunately, slipping away from us, and particularly because of illegal practices. This is an example where national competent authorities can help and sustain what we aim at: improving collection, improving treatment, extend lifespan of the products. This is a key illustration of what can be done in the country.
Thank you, Nathalie. I think we can all agree with you that there are many elements that we can, many measures we can implement to address the situation. But in any situation, the enforcement agencies and enforcement policies remain very important. So let me now also ask a follow-up question to Wanda. Jan Vlak said in his presentation that the principle that PROs are not solely responsible for member state collection targets and are only accountable for the WEEE that is made available to them, the 100% of all the WEEE that is made available to them or to which they have access, should be enshrined in WEEE legislation. Do you agree?
Hi, can you hear me? I think I had a problem with the sound. Indeed, absolutely, I do agree. And also it's important to note, producers and PROs are required to collect the WEEE that's made available to them. And when we say made available to them, whether that came through deposited collection facilities or handed to them. And of course, it has to be aligned with the principle of Article 12 in the WEEE Directive. But it's important to remember and to emphasize the need that all actors that have access to WEEE and can contribute to the collection of it should have a legal responsibility to do so and to be accounted for it, as has been mentioned by my colleagues, and it's been echoed and several times repeated. It's rightly so. It's a triple A approach. It's important everyone within the cycle to be accountable and responsible, but not to forget attaining the target, and by that we mean reaching the target. It's the responsibility of the member state, but it takes, it's like the saying, it takes more than one to tango. So it's an all approach together. So yeah, absolutely, I do agree.
Okay, thank you. And Natalie, this has been presented as very much a European Union issue, because there is a directive, of course, a European directive that lays down targets and procedures and so on. But to what extent is it actually applicable to countries outside Europe? Because as you know, there are many countries across the world, and we have PROs also in other parts of the world that are members of the WEEE Forum. Many countries have adopted and are implementing EPR legislation. Do you think that the 4 principles that we have been discussing now is also relevant for these countries?
Absolutely, Pascal, because I think many non-UN countries have a legal framework that could be similar to the European. And for the WEEE, I think drivers and actors operating in all countries in the world are quite similar. And this is very, very important. And moreover, the WEEE Forum paper is, for me, is meant to be a guidance for countries who are currently designing WEEE legislation, and seeking on how implementing an efficient and virtuous WEEE management. These measures, I think, can be sometimes somehow tailored and maybe implemented in a way that best suits to the country, on the basis of what seems to be and what will be the goal to achieve the best environmental and economic outcomes for the country. And these measures Jan presented are built upon lessons we learned in Europe. So we have over the past 20 years experiment some levers, some actions. We have a good return on investment of what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's a very, very good basis for countries, even if they are outside Europe, to set and to think their WEEE management organization.
Okay, and in your opinion, what can we do? Thomas has a question. Thomas, you have the floor.
Well, I think that what you have presented is very good, but you also have to remember that in many countries, there is such a high value also of the WEEE that things like made available is not really functioning at all. You have to, in many cases, buy it from the society. And we do have some examples of that also in Europe, but in many cases, these products are exported legally or illegally. But in many other countries, you have such a big recycling market, and as a PRO, you have to compete with this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, what is, in your opinion, Thomas, the main difference between the European Union and the rest of the world? Is it the magnitude of the informal collectors network, or how should we see this?
Well, with big parts of the rest of the world, because we do have some countries which are very like the European situation, and we have differences. But yes, and I think it's kind of seen in the fact that you have a high price also on waste products. They have a value, and they have often an even higher value in the perception of people. So to actually get hold of it takes special efforts. So I think that's the biggest difference. We have it to a low extent, they have it to a high extent, this problem.
Okay, thank you. And Natalie, what are going to be your next steps? Are you going to use this report? How are you going to use it in your operations? What are the key lessons learned, and what is going to be your message to the authorities?
For the French authorities, you mean?
Yes.
I think this report demonstrate and give us for France the, let's say, the the best practices we can share among Europe. I mean, some measures detailed in the report are already implemented in France. I was talking about mandatory handover. We have many partnerships with let's say the scrap dealers in order to make them join the proper, let's say, schemes and the way we would like to have the WEEE collected and treated, and try with them to implement new initiatives in order to develop circular economy. And we also, I think this report is very important because it can illustrate what could be the common vision on European basis for all the PROs. And this is very important because this sounds very positive, and it gives also very good strength because many of our subjects should be treated on European basis. We have been talking about illegal exports, and we know we have some, let's say, some border trade between countries among Europe or outside Europe. And this could be something which can be handled on European basis. We have been running, let's say, it was, Pascal helped me, a couple of years ago, a QUIT initiative.
Yes.
And counting and trying to document some flows. And I think, where are we today? Are we something? Do we have something implemented on European basis to have a better documentation of these flows? And I think this report shows that the cooperation on European basis and among flows is very, very important and very useful. And this is the message I will give to our authorities. So keep faith. And we will do our best with all the stakeholders to reach the target and make sure that we are proper collected, proper treated, and be able to generate some new materials, some new initiatives for the reuse and to extend the lifespan of the products.
Thank you, Nathalie. Turning to Wamda again, EPR is one of the tools that policymakers use to stimulate a resource-efficient, sustainable circular economy. Would you mind providing a few examples of what manufacturers do to make the economy more circular? What can we do to slow down the e-waste as a fast-growing waste stream? Because at the end of the day, this is the cause of all the problems, and that's the reason why we are having this webinar here today.
Indeed. In fact, actually, several examples actually comes to one's mind, and we can easily spend an hour, even more, just going through them. So I will summarize just a few. So I just wanted to point out Digital Europe from the start being ahead of the game and working and actually establishing ideas and also reflecting what is our industry doing. So if we just slightly go back, for example, in 2017, there's been a paper put out where it looked actually at the contribution of the digital industry when we talk about repair, remanufacturing, and refurbishment. And if I can take sort of two main examples out of that, they looked at repair on a large scale and the advantage and what it can maximize, and also remanufacturing and refurbishment. So when you look at repair on a large scale, that the paper looked or focused more into the DIY side of things, where there's tutorials, and also showed there is a second different strategy to enable the repair of devices that actually complement and considerably takes into account the circular economy perspective. So if we start looking at those large scale in terms of repairs, if you look at the B2C market, there's a huge mass market for that alongside with the specialized one. And there are several advantages being highlighted to these repair at a large scale, where you can guarantee the quality, the efficiency, the effectiveness, and also the productivity of the product. There are actually several existing networks of authorized repair across Europe, where many of the Digital Europe members are actually running and facilitating, and in some cases centralizing these. So these repairs really looks at the environmental impact and how you can contribute by not to produce newer product, but to displace the new products by actually having resource efficiency and increasing the reuse and also the energy output use of the product that you are repairing. So there are several works in there, and actually some of the members, for example, to mention is also was mentioned in the paper. You have Nokia, who's been remanufacturing since the 1991 and looking at sustainable alternative measures for manufacturing new equipment. You also have Ricoh mentioned in the paper looking at remanufacturing of their cartridges, and also not mentioned in the paper, for example, where I come from the Canon world, and we have been developing a range of product called EQ80, where it's a brand name for office machines, where they have been remanufactured to promote the efficient use and the reuse of resources, and also looking on how best we can contribute to the circular economy. So that was sort of few years ago, as I said, in 2017, but also recently, I think I've mentioned it briefly. There's been a paper in July this year where they looked at how we can, looking into the consumer and empowering the consumer, taking part in the circular economy, repair and reuse. We're very much supportive of the repair of the reuse, but we also need to set a specific defined ways of how we see that sustainable consumer repair and reuse, where we need to look at empowering the consumer through the digital online and the wealth of information provision that provided by many of the Digital Europe members online, where you can go voluntary and find the information about how sustainable the product and the journey of the product, where it comes from. Right to repair and reuse are very much close to us again, but we need to define the right of repair. Yes, we agree there's a need for the right of repair, but we really need to have a harmonized definition. When we say right of repair, what does that mean, and how that will be reflected and accessed across the industry. And also, last but not least, we also looked at upholding existing legislation for the consumer and how we can protect against the premature obsolescence. So looking at dynamic ways in the marketplace and how the commercial extended warranties and the reliability and innovation will go hand in hand. Also, as an industry and through Digital Europe, there's been as a co-founder, the development of the i4 platforms, where it actually looks to provide recyclers and operators with information for recycling WEEE information and how to dismantle and recycle it. So that was an industry initiative as well. We also have many of the manufacturers of EE products in the frontier lines or within the plastic recycling, and Digital Europe signed to the Plastic Alliance, where many members are part of it, but even some of the members outside of the alliance, they have their own activities where they are using recycled plastic in their portfolio. So again, I refer to an example where we have our Canon production printing, where they actually have recycled content as in plastic within the product and the machine they are placing on the market. So as I said, these are just some of the quick example I can just provide, but we can spend a good hour or more just on how prepared and how positive our industry about the new changes, and that we want to support it and shape it positively. But we just need to be all speaking from the same notebook when it comes to definition and how we will implement it across the platforms.
Thank you, Wamda. I think it's correct to say that producers have made huge efforts in addressing many of the issues. And you talked about repair, remanufacturing, and reuse. Also, we need to define the right to repair. However, and now I turn to Nathalie, the number, it was recently in the press that the number of unused phones in Europe runs into the hundreds of millions just in Europe. And studies show that mobile phones are currently the most disposable form of technology. That was literally a quote. What are you doing, you are the producer responsibility organizations, doing to encourage citizens to return used mobile phones? Are repair and preparation for use picking up as initiatives to extend the lifetime of electricals?
Yes, Pascal, and thank you for this question about mobile phones, because you were talking about 700 million of phones on European basis, and we can roughly say that there are between 50 million and 100 and something million mobile phones sleeping in the French drawers. So we feel a bit concerned in France. And what I want to share with you is that anyway, there is a very dynamic market for the second-hand phones, and growing each year, meaning that what we have been talking about repair, reuse, makes a lot of sense. And we estimate in France that between 5 to 9 million mobile phones are reused each year, and through exchanges between the individuals, I mean C2C, or through professionals of the reuse, who buy and repair and resell mobile phone as reused phones. But the phones kept in the drawers by people are mainly stocked because of lack of practical access to collection solution. We made a study about this. People don't know really the recycling process of the repair process they can have. And they are also very concerned about their personal data. I mean, you have in your mobile phone some pictures, some email address, some text, and it's quite some personal information. And they need to be, let's say, reassured about what is going to happen with their personal data. And because, by the way, also the mobile phone is a very, very small product, and it's very easy to forget the mobile phones in the drawers for a long time. So, as I said before, we ran a study. It was last year, and that showed some solution to address the unused phones collection challenge, because we estimate that in the drawers about 2/3 of the mobile phones stocked by the consumer, let's say, still functional devices. So it means it can be, these phones can, 2/3 of these phones can be reused. So we try a solution at Ecosystems, a solution we're operating today. Very simple, safe, and free for the consumer. It's implemented since the beginning of this year. So we develop a website. The name is jedonnemontéléphone.fr, which I can translate with igivemyphone.com. And as a consumer, you can register on this website, and you get a prepaid mailing option. And so you can print a label at home. You have two or three mobile phones you want to get rid of and to give them to ecosystem or for social purposes. And you put your phones in an envelope, you glue the label on the envelope, and you just have to take the envelope to a postal outlet or place it in the mailbox. So very simple, free for the consumer. And the phones are shipped in France in this initiative to a reuse center, which belongs to a social economy network. Maybe some of you are aware about Emmaüs. And the mobile phones are sorted, they are cleaned, they are repaired, and then they are resold at solidarity prices by the reuse center. And when the phones cannot be repaired, they are recycled in a specific treatment center. And since the beginning of this year, we have collected more than 20,000 phones with this solution. So it's, let's say, quite a very good initiative, because people are looking for a solution what they can give their phone. We have solution, of course, handled by carriers or retailers or professionals of reuse, offering, let's say, euros to get and to buy your old phone. But this solution is free, and you just have to give your phones. And also, we have been talking about repair and reuse. In France, we have a new circular law which is dedicated to, let's say, to resources preservation and the waste reduction. And this law has a lot of, let's say, new rules, but I want to share two new rules with you. And this law is implementing a fund for repair. It means that the PROs have their sphere of action extended to repair and reuse. And for 2022, we will have to implement and to manage a fund dedicated to repair, so financed by the producers, in order to reduce the cost of repair for the consumer. So it's and the second fund is dedicated to reuse initiatives. So the PROs will have to support reuse initiatives, financially reuse initiatives, and we are perfectly aligned with these objectives, these targets, to extend the lifetime of electricals, and which is a new sphere of action for PROs. It means that we operate now from end-of-life products to extension of the lifetimes of products. And we work, of course, with the producer very closely to design and to shape these new rules, these new elements given by the circular law in France.
Thank you, Nathalie. I would now like to turn to Lucia, who has been managing the chat box. Lucia, would you mind telling us if there are any relevant questions popping up in the chat box?
Hi, Pascal. Hi, all. Well, I've been doing my best to answer most of the questions in the chat. How do I have like 5 minutes alone, Pascal?
We've got a couple of minutes, and then I will turn to Thomas with the question how he sees the future for EPR.
Okay, then I will focus maybe on the last question that is addressed, in fact, to Nathalie. So the question is about this Je donne mon téléphone campaign, and the question is asking why can't these phones be collected locally by the community and develop the skills in the community. So I guess this refers to the preparing for reuse organizations that you are collaborating with in this campaign. Can you provide more information on this?
Yes, of course. The solution Je donne mon téléphone, I mean, using the prepaid mailing option is one of the solutions, because the consumer can still, let's say, discard his mobile phone through retails, through collection points handled by ecosystem. It's just one of the solutions. It's not the only solution. It is a new solution we have been tested this year.
Thank you, Nathalie.
Is there another question, Lucia?
Well, I found that one question that I think I must say it's very optimistic and it's interesting. So we have Regina Colmeyer asking, sorry, it's Wine Weekquist, who's asking who will then be responsible for the remaining WEEE that it's above the targets. And I think it's optimistic because we are still struggling about the WEEE below the targets. I don't know exactly who could answer this question, Pascal. I think it's a bit strategic, philosophic question.
Thank you, Lucia. I think Nathalie can respond to that question.
Oh, no, Pascal, it's strategic. It's for you.
Okay. Well, if it's for me, I would say that in any case, producers and the PROs will take back 100% of the e-waste that is presented to them, to which they have access and that is made available to them. So whether that means 100% of all the WEEE that is generated, that's all right. If it is 80% of WEEE generated, that's fine too. If it is a lot higher than the target, everything is perfect as long as producers or PROs have access to that electronic waste. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left. I have one final question for Thomas to, let's say, wrap up this webinar. It has all been very insightful, but one question still, let's let's say, turns around in my head, and that is that we saw the figures presented by Mattia Pellegrini, and globally 53 million metric tons of electronic waste were generated last year. And this figure is going up and up and up and up. And Mattia also presented that actually recycling is not keeping pace with this. And you just ask yourself the question, where is the tipping point? Where will we ever be able to manage this challenge? And how do you see the role for EPR? In 1 minute, please.
Hey, thank you for saying that the tipping point is when we manage the things and not something opposite. I think that we need to be more clever than we have been. And we need to realize now that society is actually changing in many ways. We have a different system with information, which can change a lot of things. Also, when it comes to logistics, opportunities for producers to take part in the life cycle of the products. I think we will see a change in this area. But yeah, we have a real challenge in front of us when it comes to e-waste, but also when it comes to other waste. And we need to make better use of the products and the materials. That's simply what we need to do.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for these words. That's a very optimistic vision for the future. We have come to the end of the webinar. We have pasted links to the UNITAR reports, as well as to the WEEE Forum vision on EPR on our website. And James has posted the links on this chat box. The GoToWebinar will remain open for a few more minutes so that you can download the reports. They will also be available on our website, of course. And I would like to give a sincere thank you to all the speakers today: Mattia Pellegrini, Kees Balde, Jan Vlak, Nathalie Iser, Wamda Said El Siroji, and Thomas Lindqvist. And we will hear from each other very soon. And thank you very much for your participation and your questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.